Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. These are recorded live Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to catch the show, engage in the bantering back and forth with the various comments and things like that, you can catch the show live. We have a fairly standard show today, although probably slightly longer. We have privacy, security, data links, AI, business, and sillyville. So this one possibly will be a long one unless I run really fast through articles, which I don't know, I may or may not try to do. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right on into the privacy news. First and foremost, Google and Meta are reportedly skirting their own rules to target ads to young teens, showing why tech giants cannot regulate themselves. Now, self-regulation of companies is an interesting history in America. I found this when I was writing the book, I Am Not Amused, and I was looking at how the various industries regulated themselves because governments were about to step in. If the government's going to step in and regulate your industry, it's a nightmare. So you figure out how to regulate yourselves. And so that's kind of what we saw with the movie industry first. And then we got a little bit of the television and music industry. And then finally, I think the gaming industry might have been last, or maybe TV was last. I forget. But there's a lot of interplay in American history about companies regulating themselves. So in this case, of course, we are in an era where there is effectively no ethics. So asking companies to regulate themselves is very difficult. So how are they doing this? Well, of course, it's embedded in the law and in their policies not to target marketing campaigns to people under the age of 18. They all have that. So what did they do is they circumvented their rule by having the category called unknown. Of course, if I look at my YouTube analytics, I can see, 18 to 24 or 24 to up, and I can see all these age demographics, and one of those is unknown. Well, what they did is they figured out that they can figure out who most of the people are. And so they put most of the people in their proper categories, and everybody that doesn't fit one of those categories is probably a teenager. They get dumped into the unknown, and they allow people to target to the unknown, and they target kids advertising to unknown. So that is what they are being accused of anyway, both Google and Meta. So this was a campaign launched successfully in Canada by the media agency Spark Foundry, and then in the U.S. with plans to include other Meta apps and regions. According to Financial Times, campaign was canceled after the publication contacted Google, though it admitted no wrongdoing because it didn't directly targeted registered YouTubers. It says known to be 18, I guess known to be under 18. Interestingly enough, Google's own policies define the campaign as in violation since it also has rules against proxy targeting. But hey, as long as you're handing Google the money to pay the monopoly fines, why do they care, right? So that kind of is the case. It's a very interesting story to read that. Of course, all of our links are in the description below. That'll link over to the website where we have all of these links so you can have a look at all of our news articles over there. Illinois is doing something really stupid. So Illinois is one of the few states that actually has a biometric law with teeth. A couple other states also have biometric laws, but Illinois is the only one that allows the person whose biometric data was illegally harvested to actually go after the company for a monetary payout. And if it was an accidental biometric collection, it was a $1,000 payout per instance. If it was a malicious or a known violation, it was a $5,000 per instance. Well, all these companies go to their favorite lawmakers waving a stack of cash to their campaign funds and say, hey, can you fix this law for us so we don't have to pay as much? Of course, this boiled down to a White Castle law where White Castle was forcing people to sign in with fingerprint readers, which is a direct violation of the biometric laws. And this meant a $1,000 fine for every single employee and every single time they logged in and out, which was going to boil into millions, if not billions of dollars in fines. So the companies waved a bunch of cash in front of the governor down here in Illinois, and they just amended the legislation to say that each instance of a violation can only be paid out to an individual consumer one time. And so Illinois has effectively sort of neutered its biometric laws to protect the big companies with really deep pockets to make sure that people aren't suing their pants off for illegally collecting their biometric data and using it against their consent. So There you go, Illinois. Screw off and change that law back and heavily enforce it and make sure these companies realize that, yes, we can't just randomly collect people's biometric data and use it. Well, this is an interesting one. Apparently I was supposed to do the biometric law last, but anyway, this is really interesting because the first one of my science fiction short stories of last season is actually this exact technology. Ford is trying to create technology that would tell police if someone speeds. So if you go back, if you're a supporter on my channel, a paid supporter, you can go back and read my short stories. You can find my story called Cars Have Eyes. I think it was August or September of last year. And it mostly dealt with the Bluetooth technology they're trying to embed in vehicles for shortwave communication. But part of that was that if a car can detect if it's speeding and alert a nearby police officer that you're speeding, so your car can snitch on you, and then the police can pull you over and fine you. And the evidence has the car has collected all the evidence against you and handed it on over. So this is a crazy dystopian nightmare. But this is what Ford is doing. Now, to be fair, this is a patent that Ford has. It doesn't mean they're doing anything with it. It just means that they are creating the patent. So what they're doing is, in this case, they're using a 360 camera, which various cars use to watch the road. And then if somebody goes over the speed limit, it's going to capture the information and then pass the information on to police when they come in close proximity to the police. Furthermore, they had options over here, give police complete control of a car's onboard cameras. So if you have cameras in your car, which many cars are starting to force in there, now the police can come over and capture your camera feeds. Which is another feature I had in my story, Cars Have Eyes. So I am sorry that I have submitted things into the ether of the universe, which is now becoming part of the upcoming dystopian future. But you can read all about it by being a supporter on any of our supporter networks. But that is what Ford is up to. So needless to say, I will not be excited about buying a Ford anytime soon if I see them start implementing such technology. Of course, this did backfire. TomTom was trying to do this. The GPS company, this is going back like 10, 15 years ago. They had some two-way communications and they're like, oh, these people are speeding. They would literally beam people's GPS information back down to police so police would know where to sit to catch people speeding. That kind of backfired on TomTom. So I'm not sure if Ford would actually be stupid enough to attempt this or if it's just something they're saying, hey, let's go ahead and register for this patent so nobody else does. So that is what they are up to. With that, let's move on over to security news next. This was a fascinating one. This is called the 0.0.0.0 day flaw. Allows malicious websites to bypass security in major browsers. So this is fascinating to me because when you are doing the host file redirects that I talk about frequently to use a host file to fizzle out domains, the way you used to do that is by using 127.0.0.1, which is the home address, which causes every system to fizzle. Every browser and every system in the computer knows don't do anything with this. Fizzle it into the local network, the local DNS on the computer, which means any website redirecting to 127.0.0.1 is simply going to fizzle. Well, when Microsoft released Windows 10, they broke something in the internet if you readjusted your host file with 127.0.0.1, thus causing the entire internet stack on Windows 10 computers to break if you were using host file redirects with the home address, forcing everybody to change from 127.0.0.1, which worked universally before Windows 10, to 0.0.0.0, which can be used maliciously by websites to do malicious things. So literally the entirety of the internet had a massive bug introduced by Windows being stupid. Switch to Linux, folks. That's kind of why I wanted to cover this. But we saw in just recent months since 2022, we saw an uptick of malicious page loads going to this, and effectively various websites which are looking for this particular one can take advantage of it and do nefarious things on your system. Now, because of this is becoming known, the various browsers are updating their systems to be able to handle this. So it is being solved, but just be aware that the fact that most of these host file redirects are now using 0000 instead of 127001 in and of itself introduced the maliciousness into the system, which was only forced by Windows changing something they were doing in Windows 10 Internet, which is very interesting because 127001 is always safe if you have a system that's compliant, but I stopped releasing my host file script when I was forced to go with 0000 because I didn't like that as much. I perceived it as a bigger threat than 127001. Very interesting, but yeah, just very interesting. Anyway, Secureboot apparently is broken on 200 plus models from 5 big device manufacturers. So literally all of these companies, just like the Kia and which was the other cars that used encryption, rolling encryption keys from Stack Overflow, all of these companies used a key for Secureboot that was literally labeled "Do not use, testing purposes only." In fact, here's actually the certificate. Issuer, CN, do not trust. Subject, do not trust. AMI test, PK, do not trust. Yet all these companies put it in. Which companies were they? Dell, sadly, was one of them. I got to find the whole system here, the whole collection. Acer, Dell, Gigabyte, Intel, and Supermicro. Although I saw references to HP in the article as well, it was unclear to me if HP was impacted. Supermicro has already patched everything. I think Gigabyte might have as well. Other ones should be patched down the road. Basically, what it allowed is it had a easy available signature, so literally any form of malware could run in your Secureboot environment, effectively rendering Secureboot completely useless on hundreds and hundreds of devices. And we do have a release date for various computers and models down here, so you can see what all those are. And as the article mentions, Supermicro did actually patch everything in BIOS updates. Basically, it's going to be a BIOS firmware update, which is going to patch this. You can test it by using EFI read var on Linux, and there's a command to do it on Windows as well. I thought there was some anyway. Anyway, so yeah, very fascinating. Of course, I don't generally rely on Secureboot anyway. It's a bigger problem if people have physical access to your machines, but there's some things that can be said about it. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting DigitalOcean, tlm.li/DOH. I use this for various client hosting sites, our Jitsi server, and restreaming servers, things like that, some of the back-end stuff on the channel and my technology and my web businesses are done with splits. Half of them are DigitalOcean, half of them are Linode. But this is an excellent place if you want some good cloud servers. If you use my affiliate code tlm.li/DOH, you're going to get $200 in credit, good for 60 days to test us out. And when you start spending money on DigitalOcean, I will receive a $25 account credit. That's the only way I get paid, but that's fine because I pay close to $100 a month in DigitalOcean servers anyway. So that's very beneficial regardless. So if you want to help support the channel, that is a great way to do that. With that, let's move on over to our data leaks next. First up, hackers attempt to sell personal data of 3 billion people around the world. Isn't that like half the world right now? So about half of the world. Data was breached. And what they actually said, that it just comes from a lot of scraping services. They did say that people that were using the data service companies that got you delisted from data directories generally were not in this, but most other people were. People, of course, who took better privacy stances generally had better off. But they did actually say that the data down here, they confirm the data is real and accurate. 3 billion individuals has data available. It was available for sale for, I think, $3.5 million or something. But all that data was up there, and there were samples of the data going out. So, I mean, this is just, if nothing else, this just tells us that, yeah, companies need to be held accountable for data that leaks out. And we need to pass global laws preventing any company from having any person's data that they're not actively requiring to actually do business with. That would be a huge benefit. And of course, ADT says it was hacked and the information leaked online. Oh, don't worry. It was just your home addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers. You know, everything somebody might need to break into your house and to figure things out and stuff like that. So, you know, you have your email address on there, your phone number. Okay, let's just go ahead and find this home address. We got their phone number. Let's do a SIM swap attack. So when we're going to bust into the house because we see they're not there, the ADT is going to call us. We're going to say, oh, yeah, no, that was us. I'm sorry. And then the guy's going to be able to break right on into your house. Isn't that wonderful? Of course, I promised not to mention about the ADT guys watching on. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to talk about the ADT employees watching you on your cameras in your house. So I'm sorry. Anyway, 30,000 customer records leaked. Not a massive amount of their data. They do have a much bigger client base than 30,000. But to have 30,000 customer records leaked, including home addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers, is pretty big for a company charged with keeping your property and your house secure. So I'm a little concerned about this. Let me know if you are as well. With that, let's move on over to the business. We have AI news next. Wow, we have all sorts of stuff. So we'll go ahead and have a look over at AI news next. First up in AI news. This is interesting. We have two fascinating AI stories, one from MIT and one from Forbes. Go figure. MIT warns us to prepare for addictive intelligence. So what they're saying is, with the AI, they're really talking about yet another one of my short stories. I think I called it Rebirth. I can't remember exactly which story, which title I used for the story now, but in that particular story, we were talking about the idea of using the AI companion based on your actual relatives. And so what they're talking about here is this trend. Mostly this is over in Asian countries, but New York is actually experimenting with this with their government programs, making AI assistants for elderly. And MIT has a fascinating concept down here. They say, will grandma spend her final neglected days chatting with her grandson's digital double while her real grandson is being mentored by an edgy simulated elder? In other words, grandma and grandson are both still alive, but each one is using an AI-generated version of the other for communication rather than talking directly to them. And what the article goes on to talk about is that AI is so designed, so addictive to how our world is. I mean, think about social media. AI is the next step above it. They've used social media in such a way to make it so addictive to us. Well, AI utilizes those same features in a more interactive manner, allowing people to effectively become far more addicted to AI, such that people are becoming addicted to not only their loved ones, but digital boyfriends and girlfriends and things like this. And so what they're warning about is these AI assistants could become so addictive. If we think about the addictive problems of smartphones, think about this moving far beyond smartphones and moving into the addictive realm of constantly being connected to the internet to an AI chatbot instead of actually doing, going out in the world. Or I guess you can have those on your phone now too, but very interesting concept that we have to be aware of as the addictive nature of AI can become another next upcoming issue. Of course, another issue with AI, as reported by Forbes, is that 77% of employees report AI has increased workloads and hampered productivity. So effectively, your managers are coming in and saying, oh, this AI is supposed to greatly increase our ability to do work. And so what they're doing is they're sending all of their employees to use AI, but the AI is not nearly as good as the company suggests the AI is. And so what ends up happening is the employees are getting frustrated because the AI doesn't perform as well as the AI marketers marketed that it will to the CEOs. And so what ends up happening is they think it's just this amazing thing that's going to work universally, but it's not. And so what ends up happening is the employees are getting frustrated and burnt out because the AI is not performing as the C-suite executives have been told it should perform by the people selling the AI. They're expecting more of their employees, but their employers are getting less out of it. Their workloads, therefore, are increasing. Their productivity is going down, and it's leading to massive amounts of burnout. So they say nearly half of employees using AI say they don't even know how to achieve the expected productivity gains their employers actually want. 40% feel the company is asking too much of them when it comes to AI. So not only is AI stealing your jobs, but if you do get to keep your job and use AI, it's causing nothing but frustration, as the AI is not nearly as good as everybody thinks it happens to be. So that's a very interesting take on AI itself. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do have a shop where you can pick up some merch. Like this hat is directly over there, and I don't have my coffee cup here right now, but I have that. I have T-shirts and mouse pads and all sorts of other fun stuff over there. You can go to there at shop.switchedtolinux.com. You can even pick up baby onesies. There you go. Pick up a baby onesie for your baby. Your mother-in-law will love that, right? We have good hoodies and things like that. My hoodie has survived 3 years of van life. It is starting to get rat-eated holes, so I do need to buy a new one for this year. But we do have a lot of different things. You can search through here. There's organic stuff. There's pillows, aprons. There's backpacks, hats, all sorts of neat stuff over here. So you can pick up a variety of different things over here on shop.switchedtolinux.com. And with that, let's have a look over at our business news next. First up, of course, Google is developing a new way of monetizing for Chrome that could really change the way we pay for things. Now, there's two factors to this. The way it sounded is that they're coming up with a new payment processor for e-commerce, and that's kind of how the Tech Radar article starts. Talk about e-commerce and spending money and things like that. But the whole thing completely pivots from that to effectively like the microcharges, the types of things that Brave is trying to do with their Batcoin, right? So you would create an account with Google and fill up money with Google Wallet, and then you would go into the website. As long as the website is using Google special meta tags and the user is using the Chrome web browser, then the user can click a button to say, when I browse this site, give the site a small amount of money out of my Google Wallet. So it's kind of a way that you would go to any site and without having to sign up for Patreon or locals or things like that we have on the channel, you can support the site directly just by going to the site and clicking the button. Once again, it's very much like the way Brave is using their BAT system. Well, Google is starting to do that as well. Although I thought the article was going to talk about, having payment systems built in and stuff, but apparently not. So very interesting. Of course, I thought I heard that before a long time ago, but this article made the resurgence of news this week. Now, as we move into, of course, we'll talk about the Google monopoly stuff next. But in response to all this, Microsoft has apparently been trying to get Apple to use Bing. And Apple's like, no, we're going to keep using Google. So this is what brings in one of those catch-22s with this monopoly case. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Apple has come out and said, you can always change, but why leave Google? They said, Safari will never force you to use Bing. And they've actually said that Microsoft has come offering lots and lots of money to Apple in order to make Bing the default search engine. And Apple's just like, no, which is very interesting. Of course, Apple was kept alive for a while by Microsoft, and now Apple is the behemoth that Microsoft is scared of. So and we get this, but Apple has basically come out and said, yeah, we're going to keep using Google for the basic search engine, regardless of what anybody says. And this leads us to the monopoly war around Google itself. So a judge ruled this week that Google built an illegal monopoly. How did it do this? Well, mostly it did this by paying different organizations, be it the Samsung phones, to have Google the default on Samsung. They paid Apple, of course. Of course, don't forget that stock Mozilla Firefox uses Google by default because Google pays, I think it's like 80% of Mozilla's annual budget is paid by Google. So this monopoly ruling could literally kill Mozilla. Think about that. That's frightening. But I don't even necessarily agree, because you've always had the ability to change your search engine on these things. Of course, the EU solved this a while ago. We talked about when it happened, and they mentioned it down at the bottom of the article, somewhere down here, where the EU forced them that when you buy a phone in the EU, you have a prompt to say, which search engine would you like to be your default? You can choose Google, you can choose DuckDuckGo, there's a variety of ones that you can choose. And so that's how they solved it over there. Well, here we don't have quite as much of that. And so right now they've just ruled that the way they've been paying to be the default search engine is a monopoly. I don't necessarily think it is, but I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but they didn't say anything about what damages or what specifications will be going forward. And so in this, those are coming soon in a separate trial. Of course, Google is going to be appealing this, of course. But they did say down here, it's Mozilla, 86% of its revenue is from Google search payments. So if they force Google to stop doing this with these companies, they very well may kill Mozilla, the only competitor. So literally by nature of this court case, they could make Google an actual monopoly, not just a de facto monopoly. Because in reality, why aren't people switching to DuckDuckGo or Startpage or Bing? Because they just don't know that's an option. Sure, that might be the default, but there's nothing locking into it. It's not like the actual monopoly case that Microsoft experienced in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was no other option you could do. It was the fact that, it was so tied Internet Explorer into Windows is what was that problem. Well, in this case here, we have effectively this, a different situation, because you can always change your default. You just may not want to. Like Startpage for an example, on X yesterday, they left a post, why aren't you using Startpage on your mobile device? I left them a nice post saying, I don't, because I route all of my traffic through Tor, and Startpage is just incompatible with Tor. So I don't use Startpage. Sorry, I use DuckDuckGo on my mobile device. But as long as Google works and people want to use it, it's not really a monopoly, because you always have had the option to change your default search engines. Maybe not on the app on the phone itself, but I don't know. I don't use apps anyway. I couldn't tell you. But that being said, I'm not sure I totally agree. And I worry that this could have further negative downstream consequences for the browser wars because of what they're doing. But it's an interesting, very interesting case, nevertheless, to see what is going on. Well, with that, it is time to visit your favorite place and mine. Let's have a trip over to Sillyville. First up in Sillyville, the Humane. Of course, we talked the other week. Was it last week or the week before? No, not last week. Week before or the week before that, we talked about the, was it the iRat? What is that stupid AI device that was complete garbage that people hated? Well, this is the other one of the two new push AI devices that they were hoping to be selling millions of these things, and right now returns are outpacing sales. People are sending these things back because they're horrible, they suck, they're expensive, and they don't really work. It's $600. It requires you to have a $24 a month plan to use that, in addition to having a separate T-Mobile plan or cell phone plan with a separate number on top of that. So we're easily into the $100 a month on top of the $700 a month for a system that doesn't really actually work super well. And so what they said is, between May and August, more AI pins were returned than purchased according to internal sales data. By June, only around 8,000 units hadn't been returned, a source with direct knowledge of the sales said. As of today, the number of units still in customer hands falls closer to 7,000. So, and then, of course, pre-orders are being canceled as well. At launch, the AI pin was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews. Our owner, David Pierce, said it just doesn't work. Marquise Brownlee called it the worst product he'd ever reviewed. Now Humane is attempting to stabilize its operations and maintain confidence among staff and potential acquirers. New York Times reported in June that HP is considering purchasing the company. Well, that guarantees I'll never buy one. And the information reported last week is that Humane is negotiating with its current investors to raise debt. Yikes. Don't do it. Don't do it. Any investors in this? Well, I'm not a financial advisor. I worry when more of your products are being returned than sold. Around 1,000 purchases were canceled before shipping. More than $1 million of product has been returned. Of course, the company denies all this kind of stuff. Like, everything's going great because, you know, he's sitting here sipping a cup of coffee with a house on fire around him. This is fine. But there you go. There's Humane. It's not working well. It's not being super humane for the investors. I apologize. Cricket might have to go to the gravel pit. Anyway, AI toothbrushes are coming for your teeth and for your data. So, of course, there was some discussion about AI toothbrushes that weren't really AI toothbrushes. These are like real legit AI toothbrushes that are utilizing microprocessors and tying data back in on the phone app to show you where your strength and where your weaknesses are on brushing. And so, you know, you can go ahead and have the toothbrush do that. Of course, it has to do this by sending all the data right on up to their company servers so they can analyze the data and send it back on down. So now the company servers is doing this. Of course, now this means that, you know, when you end up off somewhere, the phone app can provide your dental records to the police. So, you know, there's a bright lining on that one, right? They say patented deep learning algorithms are embedded directly inside the toothbrush on low-power processors. Raw data from the sensors run through the processor, enabling the system to learn your habits and refine accuracy the more it's used. So they talk about the kind of a cheap thing. They typically Bluetooth connectivity enables syncing the data with the app, purportedly allowing users to see interpretations of their brushing habits and how they could improve. Of course, here we have the spokesman over here saying something. The toothbrush chip and accelerometer collect user behavioral data. The embedded algorithm processes this data with the brushing data is uploaded to the cloud in real time. No need to open the app once Wi-Fi is connected. The data processed on the toothbrush is displayed on the screen with limited dimensions, while cloud processing results are shown on the mobile app with more dimensions and AI suggestions based on recent or long-term brushing habits. No, thank you. I think I will keep my my brushing habits out of your cloud technology. Thank you. Of course, they do talk down here about how the information is going to allow companies to diversify their company's business, making more revenue through product sales, getting an intimate understanding of how people use the product. So the Oral-B toothbrush app, for example, can provide users information about their brushing habits and recommended P&G products to buy while providing purchase links. So there you go. Now your toothbrush is going to be advertising to you while you are brushing your teeth with AI power. Isn't that wonderful? R&D team says this is where AI-activated insights reveal potentially hidden answers in the product usage patterns by letting the data speak for itself. When people are asked how long they spend brushing their teeth, most say 2 minutes. However, after analyzing in-house data from study participants, we know the average person brushes for only 47 seconds. Knowing this helps us develop better products for dental health because we're able to fine-tune formulations and products to provide maximum benefits based on the common use. All right, I guess they'll make a toothbrush that works in 47 seconds instead of 2 minutes. Then, of course, there's the discussion on privacy concerns. So they all say the apps may gather personal information which may be used for advertising and could be shared with third parties, including the tech companies and others that may also use the data for advertising. These companies' policies say users can opt out of sharing data with third parties or targeted advertising, but it's likely many users will overlook the importance of reading the privacy policy for a toothbrush. Someone please alert Louis Rossman about this, that you must opt out of sharing your data from your toothbrush. So there you have it, guys. If this isn't getting ridiculous enough, this company would like you to pay up to $169 a month to rent a gaming PC. I got news for you guys. You can buy a gaming PC for about $2,000 with fairly good specs, $3,000 to do more. So let's just do a little bit of math on this, shall we? I mean, I'm a geek. I have a calculator in here somewhere. Ah, there it is. So let's say $169 times 12. Oh, you can buy a gaming PC in 1 year of paying the rental fee for this. Buy now are $169 a month, so you can never own your PC, because we must get this all happening by 2030, where you will own nothing and be happy. I think I can scrounge together a couple $1,000s to buy this, and even if I can't, I'd certainly rather put it on a credit card than pay a company $169 per month to rent a gaming PC. Of course, what is that gaming PC? We have an Intel Core i7, NVIDIA GeForce 4070, and an H7 Flow case. That does not sound to me like an expensive one. You guys in the comments who are watching this, can somebody piece together the cost of a computer with an Intel i7 1370KF, NVIDIA GeForce RX 4070 Ti Super, and the H7 Flow case? How much is that? Of course, you can get an i5 with a 4060 for $59 a month. Though this guy over here says I can build one for under 1,000 euros. This guy says I build basic gaming PCs for under $300. So there you go. Who's this for? I don't need to read all this. Who's this for? Incompetent idiots who think it's better to rent than own. That's who it's for. Done. Okay. I mean, I can understand renting an apartment rather than ponying up, $1 million for a house. But if you can't afford a gaming PC, you can't afford a gaming PC. Okay. There is no money for doing this. Let's see. Subscribers who also don't own the computer, they can get the upgraded system after 2 years. But that time they'll have spent $1,466 to $4,000 for hardware they don't own. Meanwhile, the same amount could fetch a quality PC that you could own and consider gaining value from for 2 years. I mean, think about this. I built the current streaming computer I'm using right now, I think 6 years ago. I mean, I built it shortly after starting the channel. I had a previous one. Parts of it blew up. I really built this computer I don't even think that my channel was running for 6 months. Maybe it was running for a year by that time, which means it's at least 6 or 7 years old. Sure, it's dated by current standards. It was very close to highly modern then. But I have $700 in this computer. Holy crap. But if you thought this was the peak of stupidity, oh no, Logitech wants you to have a forever mouse that requires a subscription. I have had this mouse on my media PC. I don't even know how long I've had this for. Bought it for $10. Now I've had to replace this one due to inflation. I think this one was $15. I'm anticipating this one to last maybe 3 to 5 years at least. I don't need a mouse, which, by the way, this forever mouse we're talking about costs like $400. And it has a subscription to make sure that the software stays up to date. I've never really had to update my mouse software. It's kind of basic UI stuff. Now, maybe this is dealing with these super high-tech gaming mice. But if you need to pay $400 for a super high-tech gaming mouse and then have a monthly subscription to make sure the software is updated, I'm sorry to tell you, but you are an incompetent idiot. I'm really sorry to tell you that. But the execs say the mouse requires a regular fee for software updates. So this was actually a discussion with the new Logitech CEO, who actually apparently has had issues from the previous company she came from. Now we want to cram subscriptions into mouse. So Logitech is now, in my opinion, I'm going to start calling this company Illogitech, because what they're doing is not making any sense. The concept of the mouse was a little heavier than a typical mouse, but what drives its longevity potential for the Logitech is the idea of constantly updating software and services. I'll also make it repairable. That'd be a good way. The price of the it's $200, not $400. So $200 for the forever mouse could be expensive compared to the typical mouse. Such a product wouldn't be the first software-heavy 3-figure price computer mouse. Still, a price tag around $200 will limit the audience to professionals, enthusiasts, and incompetent imbeciles. Faber also said the average price of a mouse or keyboard $26. Though she didn't cite her source, Logitech is seeking growth by appealing to people who don't want to own both a mouse and a keyboard and by selling a more expensive device. A forever mouse could fall under the latter. Alternatively, the price of the mouse's hardware could be subsidized by subscription payments. So yeah, you can make it a little bit cheaper, and it's only $100, but it's $10 a month to make sure it always stays up to date with the latest software, because it's completely critical that my mouse has the latest software running. No word about the cost of this guy here, but Logitech is selling some form of package for like $200 a month. I have no earthly idea what it is. You'll have to climb around on their website for a little bit to figure it out. But yeah, we are reaching a world where they want us to pay subscription fees for our mice and rent our gaming PCs. Welcome to the brave new world. Well, guys, with that, if you would like to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page. Of course, over here, patreon.com/TOMM. That will help support all of our different channels. And of course, we have our short stories over there. Right now, we are doing our, we have a poll going on. We have a couple of different title possibilities for upcoming book: Technological Misadventures, Shortcut to Mischief, Misadventures in Technology. And let me see if I can see these comments or not. There's two more that were given to me in comments that I want to include. Code Red, Stories from the Dark Side of Tech, and Digital Dystopia, a collection of dark tech tales. So if any one of those seem useful to you, go ahead and join us over there on Patreon. I did make the poll available for even free members as well. So if you want to help support the channel, you can jump on over there. You can get our short stories. We should restart our short story series. I think it's September. I hope it's nearing the end of August, though, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll get the next book up. We'll get the collection anthology book up, and then we'll do that. Of course, you can join in on our live shows and have our back-end discussions as well for supporting the channel as well over on patreon.com/TOMM. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.